this is the new combat on what's been announced up to now. I just want to go through it and sort of speak about some things that I might have some issues with maybe. So first off, I want to say hello to Sunstar. I like the fact it's put S8 at the start. It's quite a play on it, you know what I mean? So welcome. It's it's awesome to meet you all. Excited to get the combat bot joining our squads. So, but it's going to be a companion class, normal attack type, melee. 5-star has 15,000 health, 320 DPS. So it kind of reminds me a bit of a poor man's Big Daddy. But then I also think of all the melee bots like that that really struggle, like like Night Stalker, Ravage, and like the likes of obviously Dial. They don't do very well. They don't survive long with 15,000 health being on the sort of front line. It's kind of worrying. Obviously, when we compare that to some of the other combats that we have, so comparing that to Dial, so 12,400, so more HP, less DPS. Zor, 17,500 damage, but sits back a bit. So obviously, when we compare that to this, it's going to have less health, less DPS than Zor, and be on the front line. So already I'm sort of thinking, again, I've not even tested this bot, not even seen it, but already I'm thinking that's a bit of a worry already, that he's going to die quite quickly. Then it says every 20 seconds, so 20 seconds is a long time, send an inspiring shout to the equipped bot. So let's say it's equipped to, let's say Optimus Prime, because it says inspiring shout. And all bots in the range of Optimus Prime gain 25 DPS on normal attacks for 10 seconds. So every 20 seconds, it gives you a 10-second buff. Okay. If the equipped bot dies, I don't like that. I don't plan my bot dying. I don't really like the Enerax thing. I don't like the anything else of where the bot dies. I don't plan my bot dying. I don't want an after-death effect of my bot. I don't want it to die. I want all 8 bots to stay alive. So I don't like these generally. But this minion enters an enraged state. So that sounds a bit like, obviously, Sidetrack. And regroups with their nearest ally bot. Okay. And it gains 100% DPS and 30% health shield. And obviously, as you increase it, increases in health and DPS and inspiring shout. Okay. I'm not really sold on the survivability of it. I think if it sat back a bit, rather if it wasn't melee, I'd be half sold on it. But not while it's melee. But I think that's going to be really difficult to change because it's part of the animation. It's going to be really difficult to make it a range one. Maybe. Who knows? We've still got time, though. Then it's what we're striving for. So this is the bit that really triggered me. It has bot and squad support as their core utility. Okay. That is squad-centric and creates positive results for everyone like Trip Up. Okay. So let's have a look at Trip Up for a second. So we've got Trip Up here. So Trip Up has 13,000 health and can cause 478 damage per second. And Trip Up increases the movement and attack speed of nearby ally bots by 30%. And then we look at this, and this gives us a 25% DPS. So for 10 seconds. So it's giving us less DPS. Don't forget, this is not in test yet. This is still initial values. But these are things that sort of really frustrate me. Is that even if you look at Trip Up's health and DPS, it's 13,000 health and 478. So it's around the same health. It's a slightly bit more. Slightly less DPS. Gives less of a DPS increase. It's melee. So I think Trip Up isn't quite melee. It sits back a bit. So it's melee. So Trip Up's got more survivability. So, but why create another combat like Trip Up when we've got Trip Up? Why bring a Trip Up out and not even a 2.0, a 0.5? It's probably less than Trip Up as it is right now. It's less effective. But surely they know this when they're making this. They've put it there. Let's report like Trip Up. So surely they've gone, right, we're going to create a combat that's like Trip Up, but we need to make it better. How is this better in the first instance? That's my concern. And then it's put, makes an effort to stay with the squad. Alright, I will give you that much. It does stay with the squad better. And allows you to increase your squad's DPS passively through a combat buff. therefore not compromising the combat weapon you want to assign to your individual bots. But I'm pretty sure it's the same with trip up. So my big question before we even start with this is, how is this different and better than trip up? Before we even start testing, I want to know, how is this better than trip up? If you're looking for that, because it needs to be. I always say that new content should be better than old content, and I say it like that because I'm literally tired of saying it constantly. I just feel like they don't agree with that. I feel like their sort of thing at the minute is, let's just create content the same as the old content. I don't get why that would be appealing for people that have played the game for as long as most of us have. For new players, alright, it's a new combat they can go and get rather than going into a batch. Alright, maybe you got a point. But a lot of the older players want new content to go and chase, and they're quite stale for that reason. And that's my worry. So I'm hoping they make some really positive changes. We don't need another trip up. An improvement on trip up, maybe. I can see that. But it needs to be an improvement. It needs to give more than trip up does. Whether it's more survivability, whether it's more damage. And none of this if the bot dies. It literally just, it needs to do more on trip up. Plain and simple.